Valentine's Day is rapidly approaching. You've got to buy gifts. You're spending money anyway. Let's make it more meaningful. Hi, I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel, and I have a family financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Scherer. I have a family financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. Bridget, I'm excited to talk to you today about giving gifts that are meaningful. There's these things where if I know what's good for me, I buy a Valentine's gift for my wife, right? That's sort of this. It could be a lot of pressure. It sounds kind of funny when you say it, but like, oh, what do I do? And I don't have great ideas all the time. So it really can be a struggle for me. And just from some of our conversations here before recording, like some of the research that you've done, and there's like some guidelines, and I'm excited to hear about this and share it with our listeners. So, where do you want to start with? Tell me about like where these guidelines start and how we can think about this.
Yeah, well, let's think about it this in two ways, and this should help reduce your anxiety and have you get more meaningful gifts. So, this is the way to think about it. The first thing is what stage is your relationship in? And then the second stage is do I want to take a risk or do I want to take no risk? Okay, so those are going to be the two things that we think about. And when we think about what stage your relationship is in, we can think, I don't have a relationship. Maybe I'm flirting with this person, or maybe I'm interested in this person that I don't even know. Uh, to like we're dating, we're a little more serious, to old married couple. So what you do is different in each stage.
It's
Okay.
funny
And
as you
what's
as you
safe
describe it.
versus risk is different.
It's so interesting that I think about like I'm on the old married couple side of things now. Like, oh, there's some stress, and you made me think back to hey, I'm not dating. I want to be dating. There's stress there too. Or like those things, I can feel myself
Oh,
tense
it's
up as you're
worse, I
describing
think.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I got married 13 years ago, and we've been seeing each other for 15 years, and so I actually remember it. It can be stressful and disappointing, and it can be hard. So anyway, I put together a little chart that shows like kind of best ideas for each category, and then I've got some notes on the bottom, and I just want to make sure to go over it.
Awesome.
So let me share my notes here. And here we go. Okay. So better Valentine's Day gifts. So first stage, we're not dating, or maybe we're at a first date. So if you don't want to take a risk, don't do anything. That's fine. You're not dating. Don't worry about it. If you want to take a risk, then get a card or make a card. So, for instance, one example of this was I was in sixth grade and I had no idea, but this boy was interested in me and he gave me a card. And I was thrilled, like risk well taken from his side. Thank you. And so that's a good example of take a risk. John, any input on that?
No, I just as I'm looking, at that first initial thing, I just love the I do nothing. That's what I used to do most of life, as I recall my
Okay.
the dating, right? Like,
Yeah.
and just interesting, like, oh no, that's acceptable as opposed to feeling bad about it. That's the one thing I took from that is like, yeah, that's okay, of
Right.
course,
That's
really useful to
fine.
see that. Yeah,
Like you take risks at different times, and you
yeah,
don't have to take a risk at every juncture.
yeah.
It's fine to do nothing if you're not really dating. And if you once you start dating, it's probably a risk to do nothing. And so acknowledging, okay, we have the holiday is a good idea. So at least get a card. And then if you want to take a risk, then do more. And this is a little bit gendered, but like classic courtship would be if you want to take more risk when you just start dating, card and flowers, both.
It's interesting as you said, and it is like these. Of course, I'm thinking it from my role, right, as a husband to a wife, sort of thing. But the gendered ideas, and I'll tell you one thing for me is I know that I've gotten flowers from my wife, and I assume it was Valentine's Day, but maybe some random times too. But so, flipping those things around, I know from my personal perspective anyway, that's a really cool thing. Getting flowers at the office, those sorts of things, something. Um, and I know we're going to talk about it later. I see, the thought that counts, those unexpected things, like that sort of thing, can be really cool, at least in my experience.
Yeah, yeah. I've always had good luck with that too. Actually, gives me a good idea too. Don't do it. The next thing again, we're a thing. We've got a relationship. So card and flowers acknowledging is the low risk. Then we get into significant signifier of us. So this says something special that signifies our relationship, or says, I see you, I know what you want and know what you need. So it says, it goes beyond just the basics, card and flowers, or the maybe even jewelry or something like that, and goes into, no, this is more personal. So this says, like, this is about us. So it could be something that you've talked about. It could signify like some mutual interest. It could be a camping stove because you know you like camping together, you know, or and you've talked about that. So it doesn't have to be high price point, but it acknowledges, okay, this is something special for us. That if I gave some other person a camping stove, they would be like, what's with the camping stove, you
Yeah.
know? But because of our joint interest in camping, then it would be a gift that went over well.
And that would seem to me to be something, Bridget, where a bottle of wine from the restaurant we went on our first date, or things like
Right.
that, right? Some of those,
Exactly.
not nostalgic necessarily, but historic and meaningful things that,
Yeah.
you don't care
Right.
about the bottle of wine from XYZ, but my wife sure would care about, like, oh yeah, that sort of a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And this gets into the old married couple, and I'm happy to be in that group now. Old married couple gifts. Again, a lot of married couples settle into a pattern. And then you just kind of do the same thing every year and you're comfortable and happy with that. And that's fine. There's no problem with that. But if you want to take a little risk, then you can get, again, that signifier of us gift, like John said, the bottle of wine, like you first shared on your third date, or go back to the restaurant where you proposed, or if you want to give the person, you know, each other's budgets, so you know what you spend, that's how familiar you are with the person. Go with the extra luxury, that extra luxury is appreciated in this category, so spending a little more for these people has a different meaning than spending a little bit more in other categories. So this is the time where a little extra luxury helps, especially if your spouse has ever told you you're cheap. So that's a good time to like a
Yeah.
little extra luxury in this category, that's a good way to spend a little bit of money.
And as I hear you say that, Bridget, it seems to me, as what I take from it, is something that maybe their spouse already does, or your sweetie already does, but that they wouldn't quite spend this much money on for themselves, right? And
Exactly.
whether it's at the spa, or maybe you're buying a golf
Yeah,
outing, but oh, that nicer restaurant, that nicer golf club, those sorts of things that, it's part of
absolutely.
their routine, but
Exactly.
like, hey, this is the little special something. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And we've got some time. So let me talk a little bit about couples gifts. There was a particular study that looked at couples, and they had couples classify gifts as using the terminology from the old game Battleship. So they had in Battleship, as you recall, or maybe you don't, you had a miss, and then you had near miss or a near hit, and then you had a hit. Okay.
Yeah.
And so basically, what this signified is like, okay, some gifts are hits and then some gifts are misses. But then there's some that your spouse remembers you giving them, but you don't remember you ever even gave that to them. Okay.
Interesting.
And so that makes it signifies something to the spouse, but you don't even remember. So those gifts tended to be practical items that you gave right in the nick of time. So it's the new printer because the printer just crapped out and you didn't, and it's the new wrench just when I needed that wrench. You realized I needed the wrench and you got it for me without me asking for it. It's those practical items. Again, the spouse giving forgets, but the spouse getting it, it can be a hit for them.
I think that that's a really powerful thing to share with people, because I would feel like getting something practical, as I'm looking at the extra luxury or some of those things, you go like, a printer, but then you go, but
For
like, listen,
Valentine's
as
Day.
the receiver though, practical stuff, and it's it's an interesting thought process that it's about the giving, right? And it's about, making the other person feel good. And that's something that I never would have guessed. That's really interesting. I'm glad you went there. When you said battleship, I thought, geez, using that with Valentine's Day, I'm
Right,
on
we don't want
dangerous
a
ground
battleship.
here. So that was
Yeah.
a good turn.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so other issues is it's the if you hate commercialism, so I don't want to get a card because I hate the commercialism of this holiday. Fine, handmade is just as good as bought, maybe even better in some situations. So it really is the thought that counts. And then for most people in most situations, except for that one luxury that I talked about, price point really isn't crucial. It really is the thought that counts, particularly on this holiday. And then the bad gift. So somebody
Yeah.
gets you a gift and you're disappointed, or you give a gift and you see the look on their face.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that the topic of this, let's circle back, is about meaning and having a conversation about it can really deepen your relationship and
Is,
help
is,
you with the next gift giving situation.
Isn't that interesting that like a clunker of a gift basically, right? Whether you're giving or getting and you go, oh, but then not what you wanted to have happen, but
No,
communication and that can really be more than what you intended or what you were looking for in the first place, right? But that communication and using that as a lever to deepen your relationship. That's a really great way, taking one of those misses on the battleship
right.
board and turning it into a hit because of how you handle it.
Yeah.
That's a super takeaway.
Yeah. So with that, let's wrap it up, John. I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel, and this is John Scherer. We're both members of ACP, which is the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners. There's planners that think like us all around the country, and you can check out acplanners.org. John, you talk about subscribing.
Oh, so yes, subscribing. That's the most important thing you do in addition to checking out ACP is click that subscribe button. That helps to raise our ratings. And if you find this valuable, that will help other people find these episodes and help learn some of these things as well. So click on that subscribe and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Bridget.
Great. Thanks, John.